everybody. I don't know if I was on stream like 30 minutes ago. I think I made some mistake on configuring how to like stream on YouTube. I think there's an auto start that you're supposed to press so you can automatic starts. I don't think I did it. Like, let me know. Like, did you guys see me on like online like a couple minutes ago? I don't know. I mean, it seems like it was not on. It was not streaming. So I don't want to keep everybody waiting. So like if you kind of join, I'm sorry. Like I started like 2:30, but I don't know what happened. It just didn't start. So I guess I have to do everything over again. Like so if you see me rushing through things, that's because I've done this like literally like 30 minutes ago. So I thought I was on stream, but maybe I was not. So people that's been waiting and haven't seen me on screen, I'm sorry because I'm still figuring out how to do this. Like this is my third time doing it. So, well, third time's a charm. That maybe next time I won't make that mistake again. So let's go back and see. So the things I wanted to go over today. So I wanted to go over some like constantly like most asked questions I've got from my colleagues and the people were asking me things. So I wanted to go over those questions on Camel K, right? So I think these questions can be covered by something called trait. So a trait is something that you would use when you can configure on your Camel K route, right? So Camel K consists of a couple of things. It consists of trait. If you're wondering what trait is, this is the documentations. I will put this in the chat if you don't know where it is and all that. So this is. So here you go in the chat. So so this is the place where you can look up for all the available trait you can configure. Basically, so other than all the stuff you can play around with Camel, the actual Camel libraries, you also have container that's running this particular application, right? So in this container and with a lot of like the runtimes and the things that's running this particular application, you can configure that through trait. Basically, that's a place where you can configure your stuff, right? So that's where it is. And so one of the most commonly asked question is, how do I configure my JVM, right? It doesn't really make sense for me to actually have to change JVM, because if you're thinking about Camel K, it should be small, lightweight, running as a function or a very small microservices, maybe mostly on the serverless platform, right? So you should be thinking scaling out instead of scaling up, right? So you don't want to scale up your container, and and it should be stateless. And the application you're running, especially for integration, should be stateless. So I don't understand why you cannot scale it out. But sometimes people wants to have a more precise garbage collection strategy, right? So that's probably something that you want to do, and then you want to allocate the minimum number or the maximum number of memory usage, right? So that's something that I can see, right? I don't want it to use like a crazy amount of memory, so we have to take a very long time to do garbage collections and all that. So things that people wants to do, like in particular to more fine-tune their Camel K application, yes, you can do that. So to do that, we can actually run a trait. It's called the Jvm Trait. So this one controls how the Jvm settings and all that, right? Obviously, like by its name. So if we have let's say if we have a Camel application, right? Let's say Camel run basic. So if I don't specify anything, what the Camel operator is going to do is going to pull down all the default content and all the things that I need to run the application, right? It's going to do the build. Where's that thing? It's going to do the build, and you can see now it's doing the build and pulling out all the dependencies for me, determining what runtime I want to run on and all that. So all this will be you will be able to see them on the stuff. So okay, so I forgot to switch. So I've been talking to you all this time, thinking I was showing you my desktop, but I'm not. Damn it. All right, so this is like on my desktop, obviously you can see it now. This is the trait page where you can see everything, right? So you can see like all the available traits that you can actually configure. You can see and all that thing right here. So hopefully that you guys were not seeing me repeating this whole thing again, because I don't think I was on air for the last streaming, but I'm not sure. So might as well doing it again. Anyway, so this is like the the trait page, and what I did was I did a Camel K run. Basically, that was it. And so that's why it's actually showing you. It's actually showing me like yeah. So for those of you who's listening, just give me a hint that I'm actually on air. All right, so yeah, so basically you have a basic application right here. And if you take a look at the YAML file, it's actually it's not specifying, any particular argument that I'm passing to run this JVM. So what I want to do is I want to enable that JVM setting. So let's do a camel delete. Basic. So I'm deleting that basic application that I was running, right? So I want to change the configuration to to more specific on the garbage collection strategy, right? So I'm going to go ahead. I have it here somewhere. So I have a JVM setting right here. Of course, so I wanted to start with my trait, JVM. Want to enable it, right? I can spell. Enabled, and it equals to true. And also, I want to have a specific, user parallel garbage collection. I want to specify a certain size for my JVM, so it uses up some. I'm allocating the right amount of memory to my memory heap. Right, so that was it. So once I've done that, we can go back to the pod. And if we take a look at the configurations for this particular pod, if you take a look at the arguments, you can see that with this new JVM, I'm passing this argument into my JVM. So it will do the things I was telling it to do, right? So if you want to, you can actually have this your JVMs customized and specific run it in a specific way that you want it to run, right? Then people say, well, I mean, setting up JVM is not enough, right? Because all my Camel K application is running on that JVM, but also within a container, right? So how much resource I'm assigning to this container actually limits the number of memory that I'm allowed to access. So even though I said like 2 gigs of memory that I need to run this application, if I only assign like 500 megabyte to this container, I won't have enough, right? So so that you probably sometimes people and the CPU power as well, but I don't see the need of you changing the CPU, because as a Java application, especially for Camel, we're not using a lot of computational need, right? Mostly it will be memory bound. But if we have that, is there a way that we can change the behavior of how Camel K operator deploys my container? Yes, of course we can. So if we go to camel delete basic again, so let's go ahead and delete that thing. And then if I want to change how much memory that I want to allocate to particular pod, I can do that with a container trait. So I think this container trait is very useful because it actually allows you to do a lot more than you think. Because sometimes, so let's take a look at what's in this container. Right, I think this is important. At least for me, it is. So you can actually request for a number of memories that needed minimum memory you can allocate that OpenShift or Kubernetes is going to run your container. And also the other important thing is the container port. You can actually here it's actually everything is set to default, right? So you're expecting your application to run 8080. So what happens if you're running it in an 8088, right? So you have to change it for the service to actually see that. So the exposing port from your container, you actually have to configure that to work. So And so this is where you can actually configure that. If you have something other than, you know, traditional HTTP 8080 port, if you want to change it, this is where you can change it, right? So, and the other part is the readiness and liveness probe. So this is the way how OpenShift see if you have a healthy container or if it's readiness, right? So if you have a bigger camel, which I don't think you should, but anyway, if you have one, if you want to change the way you the OpenShift or Kubernetes like monitoring your particular pod, this is where you can change it, right? So I'm going to prove that to you it works. I'm going to do that by assigning memory, which is the easiest part, right? So let's do that by let's do this run camel basic, right? So and I'm going to assign it to a very weird number. So let's do that with container. What's the container? Where do I have it here? Do I have it here? No. Okay, cool. Let's do that with the documentations. Okay, so I want to do like a container. Let's do a container memory. Let's do a request memory. T container request memory. Let's do it a 777 megabyte. Oops, and then let's run it. When I see my basic Camel K application started, I'm gonna like check if my configuration actually went through, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and then go back to this new up running Camel K application and see, yes. Now this container is requesting for memory of 777, which I've just created, right? So, so that's how you can change the configurations for your for your run the container that you're running Camel K, right? So, yeah, I hope that helps with people that wanted to see what's going on and then how to configure everything. That's like I think the most commonly used. I think the most commonly like configurations I probably have to do. Oh, the other one I think it's pretty important is the maybe is the there's another one that's pretty cool. Oh, I almost forgot it again. Like, what's wrong with me? Okay, so there's people often ask, right? So in Camel K, I am bounded to, do I have to use certain dependencies, right? Because if you take a look at the Camel catalog right here, I'm actually running a particular versions of dependencies that I need to run the application, right? So because obviously one of the best thing about Camel K is I don't have to take care of the dependencies. I don't have to take care of the things that I wanted to import. But that again, automation brings it makes it harder to do customization, of course. So how do I say if I'm moving things to production, I don't want it to be like fluctuating between versions. Say if I have 1.2.1 in my testing environment, can I have the same on my production, or is there particular dependencies that I need to manage and all that? So yes, you can, right? So you can do that by setting the Camel version in one of the trait. So the one we are on right now is 1.2.1. If we wanted to go back to the previous Camel catalog version, which is 1.1.0, I see a lot of like enterprise will probably need this because they want to be fixed on a particular version, right? So you can do that by let's delete that, by setting the Camel version. So the version can be set by this one. So this one is here. So there is a Camel runtime version where you can point it to. And I wanted to point it to 1.1.0, which is the previous one that is available, right? So how do I know if it works, right? So if you go back to the Camel catalog, or if you go back to the operator would know that, okay, I saw you were looking for a older version of dependencies, which I don't have it here. So I'm going to pull it down from the internet and just make sure that I have everything, right? And I'm going to create a catalog for it. So if you check your catalog again, it is going to create this new catalog, which is pulling all the dependencies for this particular version. So you have a fixed version. So every time if you wanted to fix the version of dependencies that you're running on, you can do this. Although, I don't know. So, things that people are asking, like what kind of things I need. And I don't know, like if you're running SDO, you can there's an SDO settings where you can automatically inject sidecar next to the Camel K application and all that. But I don't know if sidecar is necessarily, because I don't know if I want to run. Something that I wanted to ask you guys, like if you were running a serverless application, would you want a sidecar that runs right next to it, or what would you do? Like managing all the all that stuff. I don't know, like talk to me. And yeah, so it's now pulling all that, and it's gonna take a little bit of time to deploy it. And once it's up, it's going to be running the older Camel K versions and all that. What else do I need to talk to you about? Okay, so then there's people asking me, what happens if I'm running in a closed environment where I don't always have internet access? So my cluster doesn't have internet access. So I'm trying to protect my cluster. So what can I do, right? So there's a place where you can actually go and then change the repository and then let Camel K to go to that repository that you're assigning it to, right? So what you can do in a closed environment is to set up a nexus, right, in your cluster, and then pre-cache everything your nexus, and then once it's up, you can actually go to a place in config map. There's a place you can configure that in your when you're creating an integration platform. If you don't know how, I think I have it somewhere I'll show you, maybe I'll find it next time, I'll put it in a blog and let you guys know. But there's a place, if you go to if you go into your config maps, and depending on what you call your integration platform, so for instance, I'm calling my integration platform example, you'll find a example Jvm setting config map in there. And this one contains all the necessarily repository destination where you're putting and where your Camel K is pulling stuff from, right? So you can actually go here and then change that to your local Nexus repository and then just pulling it there, right? So that's how you can work with closed environment. This is, I think, the best way you can do. So I don't know, what do you guys think? Any other method? I don't know. Just let me know. I'll share that with everybody. And the other thing that I want to share is people were asking me about how do I so say if all my code are now in GitHub repo, right? So in my GitHub repository or my GitLab repository, how do I push that onto Camel K, right? So there's several different ways you can do it, but I think the most professional, not professional, the better way of doing it is going through a CI/CD pipeline, right? So, and since Camel K is an application that builds natively on Kubernetes and Knative, we should go through, the best framework I could think of is Tecton, right? So we can use Tecton to create the pipelines and get the pipelines to pre-pull to pull that from your GitHub repository and then kick off the installation. So I was supposed to create those Camel K quickie demo, shows you how to do pipelines, but I wanted to delay it for a week because obviously there are some things I want to show you, but it was not there, so I'm still waiting for it. That was the behavior-driven testing part, where how do you do testing with Camel K, right? So I really want to show that, but it doesn't really work with Tecton 100% right now. So I wanted to get it fixed so I can show you a better way of doing, CI/CD pipeline with Camel K. But to answer the question of how to how do you get your source code into running application, and how to move your application between namespace, I would say Tecton for say CI/CD pipeline. I can show you quickly on what I wanted to do, not completely, but the stuff I already have. So let's go ahead and then create pipeline project. And in this pipeline project, I wanted to install my Camel K operator, right? So because I don't have Camel K operators, install, subscribe. So now I have a Camel K running and all that. So what I need to do is I need to set the permissions. So if I go to my Tecton project, and I need to set the permission first. OC apply, and then Camel K pipeline permissions. I think I said it before. So yeah, so this is just some RBACs to make sure that the Tecton has the right RBAC to run my application in the right places and all that. So has the right to access all the CRs in my Camel K and all that. So that's basically setting the basics. And if you've done that, I'm going to go ahead and create my task and pipelines, right? So I'm going to do that. OC apply, OC project pipeline, which that was the one. That was the namespace that we created. OC apply, and then do my task and definition. So basically what I did was I created a bunch of tasks and pipelines, right? So what is task, right? Task is something that, like this is the pipeline. This is what it looks like visually, right? So I'm running a pipeline. It's first of all installs the operator, and then it creates an integration, and then it creates another integration, which is running Quarkus. So there's like 3 of them, right? So what is within? So these are like single square thingy, right? In the pipeline are called task, right? So this is the task. So you can see that I have 3 tasks defined. But what is in the task? That's interesting, right? So if we take a look at the task, it's described in YAML. Basically, it's a place where you can. It consists of a bunch of steps. So in each task, you have steps, and each steps represents a command line of things that you want to do within task. Say you found that if you wanted to copy a file, then execute on that file within that task, you would set 2 steps, and within each steps, you can actually combine an image so that you can run and then execute the stuff on top of that image, right? So here I'm actually importing a Camel K image that contains the Camel CLI, so I can utilize it, right? So I'm running that in that particular container that, with that CLI to actually run my application. So basically in this particular task, I'm actually running application and I'm taking in a parameters, right? So if you take a look at the pipelines here, this pipeline just puts like all 3 of my tasks together and giving it parameters, right? So it actually says like, okay, so I'm giving you the parameters of running a particular GUI file, so it will compile my GUI file. So that comes in the question of where I'm pulling it from. How do I point that to my GitHub repository? Well, so this is where the pipeline resource is, right? So you got like this place where you can tell Tecton that please pull this from my GitHub repository using a master revision, right? So using the master branch. So basically you're telling your pipeline to do that. And so basically just kind of combining everything together, it is going to do exactly what it's doing. And then you can go off and then start your pipeline, telling it, okay, so I'm running this. And then it's going to run, right? So, and it's going to create a pipeline run that's going to tell you, it's going to combine all the resource and all the other stuff that you need, and then execute that pipeline. And then you can also see the log that's running it. So that's kind of like what you're expecting to see. So for moving towards one namespace to another namespace, I wouldn't expect you to do like an overall like Jenkins where you can do a cluster wide or like even like a server wide or entire environment wide a pipeline where it's gonna move this to another place. But I think what you would do with Tecton is you build a bunch of like smaller pipelines which are related to your namespace, right? So for instance, probably create a webhook that I listen to a particular branch that gets updated, I will kick off my pipeline and start doing my stuff, right? So it's more automated, and I think that's how you should do it with Camel K, because everything is smaller and you want to manage it a lot easier, and it should work natively on Kubernetes. So something that you can take a look and something that you would do. So I will definitely make a video on top of that, but I'm not gonna do it until I got the testing thing done and working. So wait for a couple of weeks, maybe days, I don't know. And once I got that fixed, I can create that video for you. So that's it. And okay, so one other thing I want to show you is the what do I want to show you? I want to show you this. So my friend Bruno, he has created something really awesome. I think it's pretty cool. It's for people that doesn't really know. That's like the first Camel developer. They weren't sure what is in Camel and what you can do with Camel. This is a great tool where you can actually start visualizing your Camel routes, right? So with this one, you kind of see, I have a Camel route. It does only one direct, and I have a RESTful endpoint. If you double click, you can tell it, okay, so I'm going to route 1, and it's going to take you to route 1, which has only direct. So what can I do with this particular route? I want to add a, I want to say hello world, and then log, maybe just do a log on that. So it kind of just creates everything for you, right? So automatically. So this is like a visualize thing where you can do with this tool, this VR Camel. So it's more like a visualize tool on like the things you can do. You can also add choices, and you can do a parallel, I guess, like after that. So I mean, there's a bunch of stuff you can do with Camel, and like he's trying to gather things that you can like work with, and then he's trying to add that. So this is very early stuff, but I mean, you can certainly check that out and see what your thoughts on this, and just give him more feedback on the things you like. So my feedback was do a Java application, do a Java language one, because or YAML one. Like, yeah, just don't do that with just XML. Just do that with YAML. I like YAML or Java, because I'm a Java developer. Java is easier for me. So yeah. So I think that's what I want to share with this sessions. I don't know what you guys think and your thoughts on anything that you wanted to see in the future. Please let me know in the comments, or in the anything. Just reach out to me, and we'll see what I can do. And I have an idea of what I want to do next time, actually. You'll be surprised. But I'm going to keep that a secret. And then maybe next time I'll see you there. Awesome. Thanks for sticking around. Bye.